I think we're all ready, Kelly.
Okay, thanks, Terry. Okay, good morning, everyone. Calling the Las Virgenes-Malibu Council of Governments Governing Board meeting to order on Tuesday, March 16th at 8:34. I'll do an initial roll call, and then we can take. Oh, there's Ned. Hi, Ned. Malibu.
Here.
Hidden Hills.
Here.
Agoura Hills.
Here.
Calabasas. What happened to Karen?
I saw Alicia.
Alicia, she was just here. All right, well, and Westlake's here. Alicia, you're here, yes? She might be having some trouble. I see her, but no sound.
Hello.
Okay, we counted you as present. Are you?
Thanks. I'm having some audio issues. I'm going outside, so give me a minute, but I'm here.
You better put on your parka and your boots because it's.
I'm dressed for the snow. This is me outside right now, so.
Oh my God, you guys are killing me.
Yeah, I look ridiculous, but I'm here.
That's okay. We don't mind. You don't look ridiculous. Okay, I need a motion to approve today's agenda, please.
So moved.
Second by Dennis Weber.
Roll call again. Malibu.
Yes.
Hidden Hills.
Yes.
Agoura Hills.
Yes.
Calabasas.
Yes.
And Westlake, yes. Agenda is approved, which brings us to the public comment period. Mr. Dipple.
I have not received any request to comment or any email, any telephone calls regarding somebody wanting to make public comments. And I'm not sure if there's anyone on the screen or on the line that's calling in that wishes to make comments.
One wishes to make comments on an item that is not already on the agenda in a different area, you can call in or raise your hand. We'll give you a couple seconds to do that. I don't see anyone with a raised hand. Okay, so we'll move on to the consent calendar. I take a motion to approve the consent calendar unless someone wants to remove or separately discuss an item.
Dennis Weber moves approval of the consent.
I'll second. Karen.
Thank you. Roll call. Malibu.
Yes.
Hidden Hills.
Yes.
Agoura Hills.
Yes.
Calabasas.
Yes.
And Westlake, yes. Consent calendar is approved 5-0. Brings us to our information items today, and we will go back to Mr. Dipple for his executive director's report this morning.
Thank you. So I'd like to highlight a few items without going through it in detail, but the first thing that I'd want to highlight is the first item, which is advanced planning for Measure M 9th year allocation. I was able to have a very productive meeting with two of the board members' deputies, Madeline Moore, who's the deputy to Supervisor Kuehl, and Maureen Micheline, who's the board deputy to Ara Najarian, who's our Metro board member, to clarify the reduction in the COG's 9th year. In fact, the reduction is only going to be 7% and not 30% as initially reported, which is really good news. So our 9th year allocation only being 7% less still is $13,089,000. And of that, 2.5 million is for active transportation, which, as you know, are sidewalks, bikeways, and so forth, and 10.5 million for highways. So that kind of goes right into the next item. The COG's Highway Working Group is going to be meeting on April 8th with Metro to discuss potential Measure M projects for the 9th year allocation. And while I'm on this, I just want to remind all the board members and the city managers that over the past couple of years, not all of our Measure M money was programmed that has been allocated to our area. And while we don't lose that, I want to stress that we want to continue to program it as much as possible in order to show Metro that it is important and we are utilizing it for various projects. I just don't want to start accumulating a lot of money that doesn't get allocated to the cities for various projects. So then I'd like to jump down. The homeless outreach coordinator, Gabriel's continuing to provide the weekly updates, which I forward to all of you, and is doing a great job. In fact, the COG's homeless working group is going to be meeting the first week of April to discuss some issues, hear from Gabriel, and we're going to have a short little training on just some technical things and some of the things that Gabriel does and interfacing with the homeless service providers in order to meet the requirements of the scope of work, which is in our county grant contract. The evacuation plan is continuing to move forward with all of the cities, and I continue to participate in those meetings and work with the Office of Emergency Management. They continue to assure me that they expect to have the evacuation plan completed by June of this year. Some interesting news. As you recall, I've been talking about the Metro Traffic Reduction Study, which is really a study that Metro is doing in congested areas where they want to charge people to drive into congested areas. And it's something that there's been a lot of concern about in the outlying COG areas, not just in our area, but in other parts of the county. At the February Metro Board meeting, Supervisors Hahn and Solis made very critical comments about the traffic reduction study, and Metro staff, which was planning to make a presentation today at our meeting about the study, has requested that get pushed to May or June. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. The other thing I want to quickly mention is the item that Tessa brought up from Supervisor Kuehl's office regarding the invasive shot hole borer beetle. I know that's a lot to say, but it's something that's important for our area, and there's information in my executive director's report on that. The other items, the only other one that I really want to remind you, and I saw that a couple of you have filed them recently, for those that do not mail a Form 700 conflict of interest form to me, which I know Agoura Hills does, and most of the rest of you have been filing electronically with the county, which I certainly appreciate. And I just want you to remind everybody that that needs to be turned in by April 1st. And the ones that I have will be filed with the county at that time. And
when we file with the county, that you automatically see that, right?
I do. In fact,
Okay.
Kelly, I got an email yesterday that you filed yours.
I did, yeah. I just wasn't sure. Yeah,
Yes.
because I do mine for the city by mail. I'm kind of all messed up about that. So, okay, thank you.
That's quite all right. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Terry about his report before we move on? Hi, James.
I do.
Hello. Go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah. Terry, in your report, you had a section about the Edison and the charging stations and the grants.
Yes.
At what point have they allocated to certain regions or in certain cities, or how have they allocated these grants?
They haven't allocated them, other than there is the statement that they're looking to focus on equity in locating half of the charging stations in communities that are heavily impacted by the economy, the environment, and public health. And as equity issues become more prevalent within every agency and utility and every form of government. This is something that obviously would make it, with that focus, there wouldn't be as much funding available to our cities, for example, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't be funded, provided that the cities complete the grants and get those submitted, and then see what's up with Metro. Excuse me, what's up with Edison.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Terry? Okay, so we're going to move on now to B on our information item list, which is the state legislation in our ongoing COG program to provide some legislative education on what's pending in the California legislature. We have a few bills that Terry and I discussed. And Terry, are you going to take are we going to go to Jeff for this? How would you?
I'm going to lead off, and
Okay.
we're going to call it the Terry and Jeff show, or the Jeff and Terry show, and just quickly get through this. We don't want to dwell on anything and take up a lot of time, but as directed by President Honig, we did want to provide a short update on some important legislation that some of you are probably aware of and some of you may not be aware of. And we'll try not to be redundant and try and get through this quickly.
Right. This isn't an exclusive list. This is just a few that, Terry and I thought were important, not to exclude anything else that you guys all might be concerned about. Anyway, thank you. Terry, go ahead.
Yes, and on that subject, when Jeff and I were looking at this list, Jeff sent me a list of about, probably 25 bills, Jeff.
I was going to say closer to 40, but yeah, something like that. I pulled out quite a lot of bills, so there's plenty to discuss at some point down the road.
Yes, and I'm always mindful that the mind can only take what the seat can endure, and I certainly didn't want to spend a lot of time on that, but in working with Kelly to going through this list, we realized that there were some very important issues and some that need to be looked at quickly. So the first one I'd like to mention, and I only have a little bit of information included in the agenda, but there's a lot of information on this AB 377, which has to do with water quality and impaired waters. And as Jeff has reported on this, as Dave Peterson from Las Virgenes Water District reported on this a month or two ago, it's a very important bill. And while it would certainly, I think that all of us would love to have runoff water meet drinking water standards, the cost of that and the enforcement and the impact on the cities would be tremendous. And so the Cal cities, and Jeff, it's going to take me a while to stop saying League of Cities, but Cal cities has already taken a strong position opposing this measure, and so we wanted to highlight that. Another item that in discussing with Jeff is SB 278. I know that in the past, the city managers at the TAC meeting have heard presentations on legislation from Jeff and about PERS and retirement issues and the impact that those would have on the cities. This is a very serious bill that would establish new procedures and would be based on disallowing compensation that conflicts with PEPRA and other specific laws. Anyway, it could be very, very expensive for cities. And so this is the kind of bill that I would like to spend some time with Jeff's help, talking to the city managers in more detail But Jeff, I don't know if you want to weigh in on this one at all.
Yeah, just to mention that this is one of the 2 action alerts that we've put out already this year. This is a bill that came up 2 years ago, passed the legislature with nearly no votes. And then the governor threatened to veto it, so they pulled it back and it sat sort of in limbo for all of last year. I really do think that the author now believes that the governor might be in sort of a compromised position thanks to the recall election effort, and she's attempting to push this through again. This is compensation that CalPERS mistakenly adds to someone's pension benefits. They then realize is not allowed under the law, so they have decided that in their wisdom that the agency that employed these folks, in this case cities, should be on the hook for paying that funds, even though it was a mistake to begin with.
Thank you, Jeff. Getting to housing and land use bills, while we obviously have one on the agenda today, SB 765. This bill, SB 12 McGuire, has to do with planning and zoning, specifically wildfires. And obviously, there are a lot of wildfire bills in the legislature this year, and this would be one that could be very important to our region with the safety element with regard to the city's housing elements and for hazard mitigation plan. And as all of you know, the COG has been fortunate to get a grant funding to do a hazard mitigation plan for all of the cities. And we've always taken into consideration wildfire issues. But this is something that is going to continue to be on the radar with climate change and the increase in wildfires. So we wanted to bring that one to your attention. Jeff, I don't know if you have any specific
one quick point about this bill, because it was sort of hidden in some of the text that I had to read when I was reviewing these yesterday. This would require that the COG, in this case SCAG, would consider very high fire severity zones and puts in place a process for reducing the allocation to those areas during the RENA cycle. It wouldn't help for this particular cycle, but in 2029, when the next cycle comes around, it would help reduce the allocation that cities in their very high severity zones would receive.
Thank you, Jeff. The next category is emergency preparedness. As all of you know, that's another issue that's very important to our area. SB 52 by Dodd, the state of emergency, local emergency, sudden and severe shortage and planned power outages, would expand the definition of sudden and severe energy shortages to include de-energization event defined as a planned power outage, and would make the event one of the conditions constituting a state of emergency and local emergency. Obviously, this happens from time to time in our region with the towers and the impact that those have on fire. And so this is something that we wanted to bring to your attention. Jeff, do you have anything on that one?
We supported this last year. We're going to support it this year. You can't call a state of emergency for a planned event, and that's what this law is hoping to change.
And then SB 99 Dodd, the Community Energy Resilience Acts of 2021, would require the State Energy Resources Conservation and Development Commission to develop and implement a grant program for local governments to develop community energy resilience plans. I know that many of our communities are already doing these, but this is very important. Jeff, do you want to chime in on that one too?
It's money for resilience planning. This is a good thing, so we're supporting it.
Okay. And then getting to the Brown Act, which is something near and dear to every city elected official's heart. The Cal Cities has already taken, or they're likely to oppose. I don't know if they have taken a position, but AB 339 by Lee would require all meetings, including gatherings using teleconference technology, to include an opportunity for persons to attend via call-in options for internet-based service option that provide closed caption service, require both. Anyway, it's basically closed caption for all of these meetings that we're doing. And Jeff, has the league officially opposed it yet?
Not officially. Assemblymember Lee is a brand new member, so we wanted to meet with him, kind of get a sense of where he's going with this. Not only is it requiring the captions, but it would be simultaneous live translation services for any language if there's more than 5% of a population in a city. So this would be incredibly expensive and very difficult to make happen.
Thanks, Jeff. And then the last one is AB 361 by Rivas, open meetings, local agency teleconferencing. The league or Cal Cities will likely support this, would authorize local agencies to use teleconferencing without complying with the teleconferencing requirements imposed by the Brown Act when the body holds a meeting for the purpose of declaring or ratifying a local emergency during a declared emergency or local emergency as defined. And obviously with what we've all been going through for the past year, it's certainly very important to continue. Jeff, do you have anything on that one?
This would just be so that we don't have to rely on the governor calling a state of emergency in the future. Should something like this happen, even on a very small scale, an outbreak in a region of the state. So just one quick thing on both of these bills. I know this COG and other COGs have had discussions about trying to bring the Brown Act into the future. We had early discussions at the end of last year and early this year about trying to get some of those technological advances that we've used over the past year drug into the Brown Act. We weren't able to get support for that in the local government committee. So it's something that we're going to continue to work on, and we're going to continue to coalition to try to move us into that by the end of the year to hopefully get a bill next year.
And that concludes the hot bills presentation.
Thank you, Terry and Jeff, much appreciated. Great information. So we move on now to reports from our member cities. I will start alphabetically with Agoura. Nathan, I see, where is Nathan? I saw him.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are, right there in the middle, sorry.
No problem. Thank you very much, Kelly, and thank everybody for the opportunity. Our updates with COVID, our facilities are still closed to the public, but we are ramping up our staff in anticipation of being open sometime in April, probably mid-April. And really just our goal is to be prepared, and depending on what happens with the county, what tier we end up, that'll kind of dictate what we do. But we anticipate a slow opening, nonetheless, probably appointment-based for a majority of our services that we offer. I don't anticipate at this point any live meetings. We'll probably continue with a lot of our virtual meetings, probably like many of the other agencies. We still are working very hard to try to get a local pop-up vaccination site. I think we're getting a lot closer as a region. So with all the support of the city managers working together, I think we've, and Dr. Stefanowski helping us out, making some connections for us. It is hopeful that we can have something very soon. So we'll hopefully have some good news coming out. And with reaching the red tier in the county, as many of you know, with the restaurants and retail open, we'll continue to allow some of the temporary outdoor operations for a lot of our business community. We anticipate that that's going to continue until they can have 100% occupancy inside, but we are doing that on a month-by-month basis. And then, like many of you if you use sports programs, our parks are reopening, and we're doing that by permit only. We do have, I think also like a lot of you have travel teams and with volleyball, baseball, soccer, lacrosse, and so we're working with all of those groups. But we've seemed to make a lot of good progress. So our parks are starting to show some activity again. And with that, I will turn over. Mayor Weber, do you have anything else that you'd like to add in?
You know, Nate, no, I know we've been doing an every other week a video presentation to the city, and gotten some feedback on that. And really what we do is hand out much of the information that Nate does. We meet Nate and I and Louis Salea and put together a video, and it's worked well. I hate to be the have a spotlight on me, but it seems that it seems to be working, and I think it got out the information to the residents and the businesses. And like as Nate said, I'm so happy that now starting yesterday and through tomorrow, some of these restaurants are opening, and I know that some of them have already started having indoor seating. So that's a big plus for us. So I'm happy I like to get back to the old normal. That's my goal. So thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
Okay, so next, Calabasas. Go ahead, Terry.
Well, I was going to say this would be a good time to allow Kindon to introduce himself. I know before we started the meeting, there were some of us chatting informally, but once the meeting started, we kind of skipped into business mode. So forgive us, Kindon, and if you'd like to just take a moment to introduce yourself to the group and then give us a little bit of info on what you picked up in 2 days.
Well, thank you, everyone. It's good to be here. I can now report that I know how to make it from City Hall to my home without using any type of GPS. And we know where the grocery store is. Don't blame me if I brought the cold weather from the Central Valley. We moved to Southern California for sunshine, and in the week that we've been here, we've had rain and cold, but I've enjoyed every minute of it. I'm just starting out. I've been here now 2 days. Yesterday was my first day, and had a great tour of the city with our mayor, Bazagian, yesterday afternoon, and started to get familiar with some of our facilities and the parks and different locations throughout the community. As for items just happening, if I can at this time, I'll defer to our council members. Just some good things going on overall, but I'll defer to Alicia and James if they'd like to comment on some of those.
We should probably check on Alicia. She's outside. Are you okay?
I'm
Alicia?
here. I'm here. You don't have to see my hat, so I'm gonna turn my video off, but I'm here. So we're so happy that Kindon is here. I know he's already hit the ground running. On the COVID front, we're really trying to help all of our eligible staff get vaccinated so that we could, work to bring people back to City Hall. That's definitely a priority. One thing that I've been seeing is that even though Calabasas has one of the highest vaccination rates in the county, when you look at the statistics, there's still so many people in our community who are lost with how to set up appointments. So been trying to help people do that. So that's something that I would just encourage everyone to check in on their city, and maybe there's something collectively that we can do, because there's people that just cannot figure out how to navigate those sites. So last night I was able to help 2 residents book appointments. So I was happy about that. Trying to support the businesses that are opening just like everyone else. But really, if we could get a local vaccination clinic, I'm thrilled to hear that the city managers are working with Dan's suggestion. Is that the Save On, the one that they used for the school district?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that's good. I think that would still be helpful, even though there are lots of places in our collective community. So that's pretty much it. Just real quick, also, we brought up legislation at our last council meeting, which I was hoping we'd be able to vote on, but we didn't really have enough information for my colleagues to make some decisions. So that's going to come back at one of our April meetings. And just moving forward, when we bring legislation to our city, we're going to have to bring forth just less bills so that we could spend more time discussing. What we did is we had a large number and it just didn't work out, but hopefully moving forward, we'll be able to bring a few bills that are really the key ones so that the city could take a position. So thank you.
Alicia, I am scheduled to be at that council meeting next week. to help.
Yes, and we realized that that was also the mistake that we made, that we didn't have Jeff there. We didn't have anyone like an expert. So we were relying on staff who did a good job, but we really needed someone else. So, you know, it was a lesson learned, and moving forward, we'll be more organized on that.
Thank you, Alicia. We're going to move to Hidden Hills now, but let's introduce Eniko. She is a new council member from Hidden Hills. Eniko, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm a new council member from Hidden Hills, and I ran for office because I realized local control was under attack and I wanted to protect it. And I've been lucky enough to meet Councilmember Ferrer, Councilmember Honig, and Councilmember Weintraub, and they've been super supportive and wonderful. And I'm very happy to be here and that I get to meet you all, and I look forward to getting to know you. I've also jumped in with the league and attended many events and caucuses, and I hope to bring a positive contribution to the region. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie? Carrie?
Oh, hi, good morning, everybody.
There you are.
Well, I was thrown off because I was going to introduce Eniko, but as you can see, she's been a great energy and a real good injection in our council. So and is getting involved in anywhere she can. So I'd say stay away from Denis Weber. He'll probably burn you out.
Hey,
What? I'm sorry. Were you still here, Denis?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, sorry. Anyways, on COVID for us, obviously you all know it's a little bit different. We're looking forward to sending our residents out to support all of your restaurants and businesses. As far as staffing at City Hall, we're pretty much fully staffed, and where we can, we spread out. I expect to meet with the staff in the next few days to kind of increase their presence in City Hall. I think for the most part, we just miss working together. Efficiency is pretty good, but we just kind of all miss being together all the time. So we'll be working on that probably much like the other cities. I did get a chance to stop by the school district vaccine clinic, and it was excellent. It was really well run, really great energy. I'm so thankful to Dan to connecting us, and look forward to bringing something to the community and seeing what we can get done. That's really all I have. Mayor Pro Tem McCorkindale, did you have anything to add?
I don't. Thanks,
Okay.
Gary.
All right.
Thank you, Carrie. Bringing us to Malibu. I don't see Riva here. Karen, do you? Yeah.
Yeah, Riva's not able to be here today. I can give it a stab. We too are still at City Hall, open by appointment only. We're still doing virtual meetings only. To my knowledge, the only local vaccination site is the CVS in Malibu. We do have 2 new cases that were reported by the county in Malibu. Our school district is different from yours. It's Santa Monica Malibu Unified, and yesterday TK through 5 opened for the first time since last year, and I think I was told that middle and high school are reopening in 2 weeks. Gabriel might be able to touch on this, but sadly we did have a death of one of our unhoused residents, which is really a shame. And I know some of the outreach workers had definitely tried to work with this person. On the Woolsey fire front, we now have 300 rebuilds approved by planning. 172 permits issued, but we're still only at 24 certificates of occupancy. So it's just a very long haul for everybody that got burned out. And we're helping our seniors get rides to vaccinations through our senior center at the city, and also staff is available to help people get an appointment. So I think that's probably all I know for now that's pertinent. Okay.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Kelly.
Last but not least, Rob.
Thanks, Kelly. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, very similar to all the other cities. You know, on the COVID front, we are slowly bringing back staff, which is great. We probably have most staff back by mid-April. They're all working through sort of getting their vaccines. I think if, you know, giving staff about 6 weeks to get the vaccines and then having them come back seems to be a pretty good timeline. So that gets us into mid-April. We're opening up our athletic fields as well, and basketball courts, and volleyball by the end of this month in March. Excited about moving into the red tier and seeing our restaurants have a little more activity. So that's all working well. Vaccines, in helping residents get vaccines and just providing that kind of on-call support is something that we're working actively on as well. I'm curious about the rest of the cities, and maybe, you know, I can talk to the other city managers about this. It's when your councils will be back in session or in your chambers. Talking to the city manager in Thousand Oaks, they're looking at June as possibly coming back into chambers. At that point, most of the general public will have access to vaccines, so that seems to be a timeline that may make sense, but it seems like if we have a sort of a coordinated approach to when we go back in person, might be helpful. Outside of COVID, you know, we're starting work on our budget for next year, capital and operating budget. It'll be a challenging budget again, I think, just because of the recovery. I'm sure you're all facing that as well. And the last thing I had is that our council took up the topic of SB 9. This is the bill from Atkins that allows, you know, lot splits and duplexes on single family homes. At our last council meeting, and there was a unanimous opposition to that particular bill. So we'll be writing a letter related to that. That's all I had to report, but Kelly and Ned may have something else to add.
And did you have anything you wanted to discuss? I do not. Rob has covered it. So thank you, everyone. Unless anyone has any questions, we'll move on, Terry, to the action items. You're on mute, Terry.
Sorry about that. So SB 765 by Stern, and I want to point out that while it is the policy of the governing board to have each city take a position on a bill prior to the COG taking a position of support or opposition, Senator Stern is seeking the COG support quickly, along with cities' support. And since this bill is merely cleanup legislation that permits a city to establish its own setbacks for accessory dwelling units, ADUs, it's recommended that the governing board support 765. And just to give you a little bit more background, in case you hadn't read through, the city of Hidden Hills worked with Senator Stern, and this issue was raised at the TAC meeting, where Carrie very eloquently explained the ins and outs of the bills to the other city managers, and that it is really a technical change, a cleanup bill that originally was passed by Assemblymember Laura Friedman. That was SB 765, excuse me, that was the original bill. and she has agreed to be a co-author of SB 765 with Senator Stern. And again, in the bill that she got through the legislature, it allowed 4-foot side yard and rear yard setbacks, which, you know, in some communities might be okay. In other communities, it could create problems with building a unit so close to a neighbor's property line. So this merely gives the cities the ability to set their own setbacks in their own communities, which is something that the governing board has continued to support, and that is local control. So that's the bill in a summary, and I would ask board member McCorkindale if she wants to add anything.
Thanks, Terry. That was a great explanation. Yeah, we're just hoping everybody can go back to their cities and get a letter in quickly, and also that the COG will support a letter today, which is a very simple ask. This is something Hidden Hills decided to do just to kind of do our part with legislation so that we're not just opposing all of these land use and zoning bills, but that we're participating in solutions. As everybody knows, 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, I believe there were 3 new ADU bills that became law. All of them allow for a 4-foot side and back setback, which is great in a small urban lot, not appropriate for a 1-acre suburban lot, not appropriate for a 40-acre rural lot. It basically puts your ADU right in your neighbor's eye line and out of your own. And so it was just an oversight, a little bit of lack of nuance with some of these upzoning bills. And so we're just asking that everybody send their letters in quickly. And I think Jeremy might give some explanation as to why that's necessary in this case. We did not expect a lot of opposition to this bill. We thought that it was a minor logical amendment. And unfortunately, Senator Wiener has decided to try to block the bill from even being heard by the public, and has given us a very short window to have cities across the state write in order to change his mind, even to hear the bill. Unfortunate, I guess we should have expected it. I'm a little more optimistic, and I didn't. So we are as a city trying to get all cities, regardless of whether it particularly impacts them or not, to join in on this just on the basis of local control. And we're starting to hear from cities. I heard from a city this morning, Albany, where these ADUs are starting to go in literally in the back corners of people's lots, almost touching their property lines. So as the years pass, if we don't do something about this, we're going to start to see some pretty significant balance and scale and proportion issues. And we think the aesthetics matter, and not too fond of the homogenization of the entire state of California. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the bill.
Jeremy, did you want to chime in?
I'm so relieved. I was planning on saying all this, but now
Oh, you should have said something. We could have-
No, it's much better. So thank you for talking about the deadlines. We need to have all letters by March 9th at the absolute latest. I know that gives a little bit of time, but in the legislative world, that
April 9th.
April 9th, I'm sorry, April 9th. We're looking at a hearing being April 15th. So as quickly as we can get these sent in, please let me know. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to have myself or a member of our capital team talk to anyone on your staff that could answer any questions that would make that you need answered to make this go forward. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Jeremy, letters, just a procedural thing to the portal. Oh no, that's the Cal Cities directly to you, or
yeah, to us would be great. And I have templates too that I can share with Terry, so that all you have to do is add your logo and the city, and so you don't have to worry about the language. And I can, Terry, I'll send that to you after. And I've reached out to a few cities already to try and get this individually, but if we can get a COG, show that we're unified as a region, and then each city, so then we have the numbers. So it looks like it has a lot of support. Thank you.
And big thanks to Senator Stern for carrying the bill, and for everybody in his office, Jeremy included, for a lot of hard work that's gone into this over just a couple of short weeks, given the pushback on it. We really appreciate it.
And one thing that I would say on that too, and I texted back and forth with Senator Stern, is that I know that last year and this year, the legislators are limited in the number of bills that they get to carry or author. And with so many different things related to COVID and other important issues, the fact that Senator Stern was able to carve out a spot for this, that is something that we've all talked about in, supporting local control, I think is something that we also need to just say a big thank you to.
Well, thank you. And Henry loves to be thanked. So any extra emails, I'm sure, would go a long way. And then when it's my turn later to speak, I'm going to talk about very briefly also getting letters of support for some other legislation. But thank you for this time, and thank you, Pro Tem McCorkindale.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Being thanked is better than being yelled at, right?
Much better and refreshing, and doesn't happen really at all, as I'm sure all of my local government folks know.
Right.
So now we need to give some direction to our executive director about support for 765. I guess I'll take it from the reverse. Is there any governing COG member who objects to the COG sending a letter in support of 765? Now is your chance.
I would move that we would send a letter if we need a motion.
Absolutely. Second.
All right. Okay, I'll just take a roll call then. Malibu,
Yes.
Agoura Hills,
Yes.
Calabasas,
Yes.
Hidden Hills.
Yes, with huge thanks, everybody.
Yep, thank you, Laura. And Westlake, yes. So Terry, there it is.
I got my marching orders. Okay, I'll work with Jeremy and Laura, who's been very instrumental in this, and we'll get this taken care of.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Terry. Appreciate it.
Well, sure.
Brings us to action item B, Mr. Dipple.
And this is an issue that is near and dear to every legislator, and that is redistricting. And this issue was, I want to thank Mayor Bazagian for reaching out to me and President Honig about the COG taking a position on redistricting. And so I guess maybe I'd like to, if it's okay with President Honig, I'd like to turn it over to Mayor Bazagian. So I did include his comments that he provided, which were very helpful as background, and would like to let him take the lead on this, and then I can supplement some additional information from the COG background.
Please, yes.
Great.
Welcome, James.
Hi, thanks. So my report just basically the statistical background that gives you some of the history of the districts in California, then the present lines and how they're drawn, and how the COG in the assembly and in the congressional delegations are divided, which is not really necessary, as you can see from the statistical analysis. And then the conclusions regarding what I think the COG should do. And it's obviously up to the COG and the member cities. But I think firstly, the COG should urge the Redistricting Commission not to divide us into districts that are different, that we should keep, considering we only have about 100,000 people that they would have to account for, we could easily be kept in the same district Might be a little more challenging with Malibu, but it's possible to do it with all the three different kinds of districts: the Assembly, Senate, and Congressional. Also, I don't know if I don't know of any other city that's in our position where they divided our city into 2 assembly districts, which we specifically asked them not to do that when they had their final meeting where they were able to draw some tweaks to the lines. They just completely ignored our request. So we're in 2 assembly districts, and that's really very unhelpful for us. In many ways I could get into, but I think you can understand how a city of 25,000 should be in the same unit. Finally, the other principle is that as a general rule, we should encourage, even if we're kept into the same district, that it be a somewhat contiguous district with the region, and that it not be, for example, what the congressional district is. And I'm not being critical of any of the representatives, but a district that goes from the Orange County line to the Ventura County line is not a very helpful district when you talk about commonalities of interest. So those are the 3 things that I think you should address. It's just an open discussion. And then I included something on the Board of Supervisors. I don't know who remembers what happened last time, but they wanted to create, each district represents a little over 2 million people. So they wanted to create a second district that had a majority Hispanic Latino majority. And to do so, they proposed changing our district and making like an O around the county, where you take in a lot of white plurality cities like Arcadia and San Marino, and just draw an O around the whole county to, have as many concentrated as possible. And it would be Kanabe's district roughly, but it would look more like an O. So, and we went down there and we were actually successful in not having that happen. So anyways, those are my, I can certainly answer some questions about the historical context, but thank you, Kelly.
Oh, thank you, James. Very interesting and helpful. I learned a lot. My learning curve on this is very high. I didn't know a lot of the stuff being on the newish side. My first question is on the California Citizens Redistricting Commission. I saw Terry's report. Thank you on the complicated process, but who are these people? For lack of a more like, who are the people that make these decisions? I get their political party, but where do they come from? Like,
the Redistricting Commission was created by a voter initiative prior to 2010, and in 2010 they undertook the first redistricting effort of its type. These are appointed. They're appointed. They have to apply. We have hundreds of applicants who apply from all over the state, and the only criteria is that they have to choose certain numbers from each party or non-affiliated or other parties. And also there are some things like there's certain classes of people that cannot be on the commission, like I think a judge or a state legislator or something like, there are certain types of people that can't, but they're chosen and they interview. We had a couple finalists or semi-finalists from this area. One of you might know Jim Bukowski. He serves on our community center board. He was a semi-finalist. And there was one other person from Malibu who actually made it pretty far into the round, Mary Beth Garber. She lived in Calabasas, but now she's down in Malibu. But unfortunately, we don't have anyone from anywhere near this area. Some of us wrote letters for these people to try to get them on the commission, because that would have been very helpful too.
We need applicants. I didn't have any idea that this was a competitive process. But I understand now the relation. Thank you. Anybody, I have another question, but I don't want to take up the time. Anybody have any questions for James on any of those issues? Wow, I know it's early. Okay, I'll ask my second question relating to the Board of Supervisors. James, and I have talked about this with Terry, has there been any ever, okay, I know the answer to that. Is there any ongoing discussion of increasing the number of supervisors in Los Angeles County from 5 to somewhat of a greater number in the with the goal of reducing the amount of, well, you know what I'm asking.
Yes, it would take a voter approved initiative essentially. And what happened was, I think about 15 years ago, there was an initiative on the ballot to increase the number to 9. And it was fought by the Board of Supervisors. They like their large districts because they like to have, that kind of influence. And they killed it. I mean, they were very well organized, a group of political individuals. It was brought by a group of people. They wanted to, create more diverse representation in terms of communities. And also several Asian American groups wanted to see if they could create a plurality Asian American district, and that they would have been able to and elect the first Asian American to the board, but it failed. And there has not been anything since. You could do it if you got the signatures, but the board would never vote to put it on there.
Got it. They're not going to do it for themselves. It would take a voter initiative. Terry, I know you know a lot about this.
I do know some background. It was something that I've worked on back in the day and unsuccessfully, as Mayor Bazagian eloquently pointed out. The Board of Supervisors don't want to diminish the power that they have. It's easier to count to 3 than if they have to count to 4 or 5, and so that's very important for them. And I can understand it from both sides. I will say that the governing board 10 years ago with the leadership of John Seibert from Malibu, when he was our governing board member, brought this issue to the COG, and all of the cities agreed. And the COG did write a letter, which is included in the agenda, to the Redistricting Commission, which I'm sure they filed immediately or threw it in the trash because it didn't make any difference. But I certainly agree with Mayor Bazagian that you need to continue to push in order to get things accomplished. And so this is just another way of pushing forward to kind of, again, the reason why the COG was formed in the beginning was to provide a stronger voice from the region, from the 5 cities. And so it's just another example of how the COG can at least be a voice for the region to try and influence where we can.
So does anybody have any questions for either James or Terry before we need to provide some direction regarding letters to the Redistricting Commission? Okay, anyone opposed to the COG writing a letter to the Redistricting Commission? I think it seems very important.
Thanks for bringing this up too, for the work for James and Kelly.
I did nothing. James and Terry did everything, and
Okay.
I truly
Well, Terry, thank you.
Appreciate
Kelly, the
it
one
too.
thing I would ask
Okay.
is that the city council members take this to their own cities and have their councils actually provide, that kind of thing too, because that's really what the Redistricting Commission, I think, will listen to.
Okay, so we need to do both, to take it both to our individual city councils as well as a letter from the COG. So with that direction, I hear no objection to a letter from the COG, Terry. And I'm asking all the governing board members to take this issue back to their individual cities. It is really important. You saw James's chart. It's quite bizarre how we are all apportioned into our separate assembly. And the only one who's covering all of us is Henry. So he's the only one who's got it together in his district.
Sorry about that.
Thanks, Jeremy. Okay, thanks. Thank you very much, James, for the information. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
And Terry, too. So
I do need a motion and a
Oh,
second.
motion. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I need a motion for the COG to draft the letter to the Redistricting Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Malibu,
Yes.
Agoura Hills,
Aye.
Calabasas,
Yes.
Hidden Hills,
Yes, with many thanks for bringing this. Appreciate it.
and Westlake, yes. So thank you very much, COG members, bringing us to our reports, public safety, legislative, and agency partner reports, Mr. Dipple. I see.
Yes, I would call on Captain Becerra.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're
Oh,
good.
perfect. It works. Okay, so I've been having technical issues this morning. So right now, all is well in the cities. Let me give you a station status report first. So the COVID vaccine has been rolled out. I'm going to guess 90% of the station has received it. It wasn't as clumsy as it was last month, so we're happy about that. We had a catalytic converter event. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me backtrack a bit. Welcome, Kindon. Welcome, Aniko, to the meeting. It's good to see you both. I'm glad you're part of this. We had a catalytic converter event in Calabasas. So what we're seeing right now, and this is not a region phenomena, this is a statewide phenomena, is catalytic converters in cars are very valuable. It was told to me that the gold per ounce is like $1,700. All the precious metals found in the catalytic converters is somewhere to the tune of $4,000 or $5,000 per ounce. So there's these crews that come and they ravish cars. They come underneath. Apparently, they can take a catalytic converter off most cars. Priuses and import trucks seem to be the biggest hit, and they come through our cities. So what we're trying to do, and I work with my partners at CHP in Ventura County. It was actually Ventura County Sheriff's Department that gave me the idea that we etch a serial number onto the catalytic converter, because the catalytic converters apparently don't have serial numbers. So when we find catalytic converters, we can't tie it to a victim, but now we can. So it was a huge event. We had it yesterday, matter of fact, and it was sold out. And mind you, it was free. When I say sold out, we gave out time slots, so it was by appointment only, and it was a huge hit. So I'm hoping to do that some more. Crime in the county, to no surprise. I know I've been saying this last. Aggravated assaults, thefts, and GTAs are all up. GTAs and aggravated assaults. We arrest these suspects, and our new district attorney just seems to let him out on his new no bail policy. It's not very popular with law enforcement, but I'll let my sheriff take on that fight. Crime in the region is starting to creep up, because it looks like 16 of our 23 stations are starting to creep up, including our region. Our region is still low compared to the other stations, but it's starting to creep up. And special thanks to Agoura, because we met an individual named Terry Paulson. Terry Paulson speaks to my training staff on a regular basis, and he's a resident of Agoura. He's a huge supporter of the station. So special thanks to Agoura for introducing us. And at this point, that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Chuck? Where are you going today, Chuck? Were you all fancy?
Nowhere. I just thought I'd dress up.
Thank you. For us, thank you. Any questions for Chuck before we move on to Megan and Drew? Thank you, Chuck. Nice to see you. Megan and Drew. I see Megan. I don't see Drew. So maybe you're today, Megan?
Yeah, just me today. Chief Smith,
Okay.
here, but there aren't really any major updates from fire. We just have a couple brief things. So the department has slightly eased our internal COVID restrictions, as I heard most of the cities mention earlier. Our local stations have been able to start doing in-person drills again, which they haven't been able to do for a year. So that's exciting. We aren't able, the stations are so close to the public, and we aren't able to participate in in-person public events yet, but hopefully that will come soon. And then, like Terry mentioned earlier in his report, we've been working on the regional evacuation plans with OEM in the 5 cities. So those are supposed to be done around June, I believe they mentioned in the last meeting. So that's something that we're focusing on right now. And then other than that, I'm just very personally happy about all the rain we've been getting recently. So hopefully we can get some more before it warms up, and I can answer any questions if anyone has any.
Questions for Megan? Okay. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
We are now, oh, Jeff, your turn. Thank you.
I'm back, and most of what I had was legislation anyway. I will just highlight 2 webinars that we're hosting this week. One today at 1 o'clock that is with the National League of Cities and is going to cover the American Rescue Plan and what cities should expect as far as when that money will come in, about 60 days or so, and then how that money can be used. The other one is this Thursday from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock is our big first legislative briefing on bills that have been introduced this year. And I did just, if you'll pardon my multitasking for most of this meeting, I did just send out an email on the events, including those 2 things to everyone today. So please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff? Appreciate your work on all the legislative stuff we've been asking for, Jeff. Thank you very much. Terry, we are now on our other legislative staff and agency partners.
I did provide, I want to thank Rachel Wagner from SCAG for providing the SCAG update that's included in the agenda. And I know that, let's see, we have some other legislative staffers involved. So let's see, Jeremy, you want to say something else? Then we'll go to Aurelia.
Yes, I'll be very brief. So for the letter of support, I need to mention from the COG, it needs to be sent in through the Housing Committee portal, and I'll send you that information. We're also working to get the League of Cities to support this bill. So follow up with that. And the other piece of legislation I want to follow up with this group that I think is of great interest is SB 55. Hopefully we can talk about it at the next meeting. But I am going to be reaching out to individual cities, not the COG as a whole, but individual cities for letters of support for SB 55. There's some new amendments, but that's our bill to ban put a moratorium on any development in the very high fire severity zones, and can help answer any questions there. But I will be reaching out to each city individually, trying to get letters of support for that. Otherwise, working on a bunch of other legislation. EDD still continues to keep us extremely busy. If you know anyone who's having issues, please send them my way. I think I mentioned this last COG meeting, but $5 billion is the average unemployment insurance given out in a year in California. And from March 20 to March 21, in the state of California, it was $125 billion in unemployment insurance. So it's been, and there's a lot of fraud and it's been a mess, but a lot of people are hurting. So if you have any constituents who are having issues, please send them my way. That is all I have. Thank you for having me, and reach out if there's any questions.
Any questions for Jeremy? Aurelia.
Just to clarify, Jeremy, it was referring in terms of the portal and the league to SB 765. I just wanted to be sure everyone got that. We would love the league support.
Yeah, and as I said, I think we're going to get there. It probably won't be until next week or so, based on just the slew of other things that we're looking at.
Understood. Thanks, guys.
Aurelia?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. So many of you are very aware of the American Rescue Plan, so I won't belabor the point on that one. But I want to just thank everybody that participated in the Congressman's city officials briefing, which took place last Monday, and he learned a lot from you on it, and I hope you found the information that we supplied useful. Additionally, I just wanted to highlight a few things that were passed the House are introduced by the congressman beyond the American Rescue Plan, which is very helpful for a lot of state and local entities. So the congressman's bill, the Santa Monica Boundary Adjustment Study Act, which was introduced in past Congresses, was passed as an amendment to HR 803 in the House. It was passed as an amendment to this public lands bill, and it would authorize a 3-year study by the National Park Service whether to add the coastline of LA pretty much down to Torrance Beach up through Malibu to the Santa Monica National Recreation Area, or establish as a new recreation area, and that would open up federal resources to maintain open space and for conservation and recreational use. So we're looking forward to that going through the Senate and potentially becoming law. And having that local impact. The congressman also reintroduced his No Money Bail Act. He also announced the introduction of a bill called the Citizenship for Essential Workers Act, which would grant citizenship to many categories of essential workers, beginning with immediate adjustment of status to legal permanent resident. And this would help over 5 million people. And in the House Foreign Affairs Committee, there was markup of the State Department Authorization Act, which includes the Congressman's Hack Your State Department Act. I think I mentioned there was Hack Your DHS Act in the past that went through. This is basically a white hat hacker program to make sure our federal government agencies are secure in cyberspace. So with that, that's pretty much the legislative wrap up of what happened in the past month on the congressman's end. We're having our congressional or competition reception soon on Saturday. And on a personal note, I am going on parental leave probably at the end of April. I don't know the exact date that I'm starting that, so I'll keep you all in the loop. So I may or may not be at the next COG meeting, but I will inform you of who will be filling in for me for a few months, and I'll probably be back in late July, August time period. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Congratulations, Aurelia.
Thank you.
Let's see, who else is, Patrick, I don't know if you want to say anything from Metro.
Oh,
Tessa.
Oh, Tessa.
Supervisor Keel's office. Did you want me to
Tessa, go ahead.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. So obviously we know that we are in the red tier, and I imagine you are all really familiar with what can be opened at this point. If you have any specific questions, reach out at any time and I can inquire to get clarification. As you know, all businesses do still require, modification, masking, limitations on capacity and that sort of thing. And as we know, COVID-19 is still a serious concern. So please encourage your businesses to comply with the new modifications. On homelessness, Project Room Key, Project Home Key, interim housing, and encampments will all be vaccinated with mobile Department of Health Services units. I think it's going to be a little bit of a delay to really complete that effort, given that we're still waiting for Johnson & Johnson vaccine to come in fully. That, of course, is an easier vaccine to transport. But keep in mind that that is the goal. And I think that will particularly impact, I imagine, Malibu among all of the cities. I sent out yesterday information about the state's rent relief program. This would be for residents it would all of the cities, if you have residents that are in need, could qualify. So it's really for people who are low income and struggling with rent past due and future rent through June. It's kind of complicated. The money, is really supposed to be for landlords to help them from, defaulting. But often the money goes directly to landlords, but it could go to renters if the landlords refuse the program. I have a link to the program. I was really hoping it would be live, but the application still isn't up, which is frustrating. But any day now, people will be able to click on this and get the support that they need. It's only for residential and not for commercial, unfortunately. And the last thing, well, actually I have two more things. On the invasive shot hole borer trainings, those have actually been postponed. It's a little complicated. The county decided not to work with UC Ag and Natural Resources because UCANR has as an option for, when a tree is infected with shot hole borer beetle, while it is not necessarily recommended, it has as an option that you could use a limited amount of pesticides. And that is a red flag for many of us. So the county will not be working with them to do the trainings for homeowners, but we definitely want people to participate. I think it'll be probably late April, early May. Again, we want to preserve our tree canopy. The goal would be to prevent the spread, right? So, and without using pesticides, using, perhaps chopping off a limb or making sure that people aren't transporting, trees that have been cut down, transporting the wood to other places where the shot hole borer beetle can spread. And finally, discretionary grants. So the supervisor has 2 rounds of discretionary grants every year. And the next deadline is April 1st. These are for nonprofit organizations. Generally, the amount that people get, and I've said this before, is between around $2,000 and $10,000. Most of your cities have active grantees. So definitely Malibu, Agoura Hills, Westlake Village. I'm trying to think of Calabasas, I don't recall. But please encourage your nonprofits to reach out to me. If I can put a link in your chat, I'm happy to do that. And if you have any questions at all about that, I can try to answer rent relief questions about homelessness and mobile units, and about reopening sectors, please let me know. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Tessa. Anybody else? Terry, are we looking?
I think we're good.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. So are there any other general comments, requests for other agenda items for April? Remember that April is homework month. On our legislative quest, we were asking the cities to come back with their top 3 bills that they would like support from the COG on. So we'll be doing that in April. I'll be talking with Terry about how we're going to structure that, but that was our assigned homework a couple months ago. Anything else that any other comments, requests for agenda items? All right, we're very quiet today. It must be the early hour. Ned, you look extremely cold there in your home.
I am.
Okay. Alicia, we should probably check Alicia to see if she's still alive outside.
I'm here.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. The future meeting dates are on the agenda. Appreciate you being here. Thank you, Terry, as always.
Very productive meeting. Thank you.
Very productive. 9:52. We're adjourning the COG meeting. Thank you, everybody. Stay warm. Bye.
Bye, everybody.